G20 leaders call for clean energy agreement, the letter they are sending in advance of their next major meeting. Also, one of the world's major EV manufacturers takes another step toward the U.S. market. Nissan announces the domestic price tag for its all-electric Leaf. And as EPA prepares to study hydrofracking, the Secretary of Energy weighs in on the potential need for federal regulation.
From the Energy News Center in Washington, D.C., this is the Energy Report with Susan McGinnis.
And good Tuesday afternoon. I'm Tyler Suiters in for Susan McGinnis. Thanks for joining us for this edition of the Energy Report. We're following a late afternoon announcement from EPA. The agency says it's proposing to revoke a rule involving the emissions of existing industrial facilities and new source review. You may remember that this rule back in January of 2009 changed the aggregation policy. That's how facilities combine upcoming construction projects to determine if, in fact, Clean Air Act permits are necessary. EPA says it's now concerned that last year's changes would make the agency's new source review permitting program, quote, less effective and let facilities increase emissions without a thorough review. So now the agency says it wants to return to the original policy that was in place, one that requires combining projects based on a broader range of factors. We will follow the story and keep you up to date as it develops. Elsewhere, as G20 members prepare for their upcoming meeting here in Washington next month, the group's leaders are now calling for a clean energy commitment. In advance of the November G20 summit in South Korea, President Obama and the leaders of Canada, France, the UK, and South Korea today are releasing a letter urging other countries to fulfill the commitments made at last year's meeting in Pittsburgh. Here is part of that letter focusing on policy recommendations for the November summit. Quoting now, action is also needed to improve access to diverse, reliable, affordable, and clean energy sources, which are critical for sustainable growth. The letter continues. We therefore must reinvigorate our work to improve the functioning energy markets and to phase out inefficient fuel subsidies from fossil fuels that can distort markets and impede investment in clean energy sources for the future. The G20 meeting here in Washington begins April 22nd, but the international leaders probably won't be there. They will certainly gather en masse, however, in November when that summit convenes in Seoul. As the Obama administration prepares to study the environmental safety of hydrofracking, the Energy Secretary says federal regulation of that practice may be necessary. This is a look at a fracking operation in the Marcellus Shale in Pennsylvania. Now, speaking last night at Georgetown University here in Washington, Stephen Chu said the issue is to make sure that hydrofracking companies drill in what he calls an environmentally responsible way. The Secretary also referred to his own conversations with representatives from the natural gas industry.
I've been telling the gas industry, we're going to have to get some sort of regulatory thing going on that, but the industry, for its own self-protection, better start on itself. And so, again, it's one of those things where it's incumbent on them. If you start polluting major water tables with this stuff, it'll be killed. And so it's very important that they do this responsibly.
Those comments recorded by Georgetown University. At the end of his comments last night, Chu added, quote, I think it can be done, but you've got to demonstrate to the public, referring to national gas companies, that it can in fact be done safely. Clean Sky's Susan McGinnis traveled to the Marcellus Shale for an inside look at hydrofracking and also horizontal drilling. She explains how companies around the world are now after this uniquely American technology, a phenomenon that could change the energy balance of power worldwide. You can see her full report here on cleanskies.com. With the EPA regulation of greenhouse gas emissions now looming, a coalition of conservative-leaning minority organizations is asking if green energy will mean less green, as in less money, for African American and Latino communities. Those organizations, led by the Affordable Power Alliance, gathered on Capitol Hill today. They're concerned about the potential for increased job losses and higher energy costs, something they say will occur in many sectors of the economy with EPA regulation under the Clean Air Act. Today, the groups touted a new study showing that cumulative job losses by 2020 from the resulting rise in energy prices, those losses could total nearly 2 million jobs for African Americans and an even higher total for Latinos.
The new study that we've looked at today, that's come out today, deals with the fact that there are adverse effects on our national economy, and that very many groups are adversely affected by the strategies and laws that we currently are enacting, specifically blacks and Hispanics.
Now, the White House and EPA say that green jobs will in fact boost hiring of minorities, especially in inner cities. That's where they say many homes will be retrofitted with more efficient materials. Also, the Senate CLEAR Act would establish a cap and dividend plan to, in part, rebate higher utility costs back to consumers. But the Affordable Power Alliance says that those rebates would simply create more government dependency within those communities. Today, Nissan is now unveiling the sticker price for one of the first mass-produced all-electric vehicles here in the U.S. The company says its Leaf will sell for $32,000 domestically, and a $7,500 tax credit will bring the consumer's price down to $25,000. Leaf leasing is all available. The company says that is $350 per month per car, but either way, Nissan does recommend that customers have in-home charging stations, an additional cost of more than $2,000 apiece. Nissan says it will start taking orders April 20th. The company expects to have 25,000 firm orders here in the U.S. by December, when that car becomes available in roughly 20 markets. It should go nationwide, Nissan says, by the end of 2011. Now, Clean Skies News was in Los Angeles for the U.S. debut of the Leaf. You can see my entire interview with Nissan CEO Carlos Ghosn right here on our website. Again, the address, as you know, is cleanskies.com. And this afternoon, more proof that EVs have the attention of the commercial transportation sector as well as the consumer sector. FedEx is now expanding its alternative energy fleet, beginning with the first all-electric delivery trucks here in the U.S. Unveiled today in Chicago, the 4 EVs will join the company's fleet of alternative energy vehicles already in service all around the world. 2 of these new all-electric trucks come from Navistar. This is a picture of that version here. The other 2 will employ a technology already in use by FedEx trucks in London. The company says couriers should be able to make full 8-hour shifts of deliveries before these trucks need recharging. The new EVs are scheduled to hit the road in the LA area starting in June. The company also has 5 more now on order for Paris. As this Tuesday wraps up, we'll take a look at some of the events scheduled around the Washington, D.C. area for Wednesday. First of all, 11 a.m. Eastern, President Obama is giving a speech at Andrews Air Force Base. The expected topic, energy security, and it could include details from the administration about a plan for offshore energy production, specifically oil and natural gas. We're following that speech closely. We'll keep you up to date with reports throughout the day. Also at 11 a.m., the Pew Center on Global Climate Change is hosting a teleconference. The group is discussing the role of energy efficiency as a key corporate strategy. And finally, at 1 o'clock Wednesday afternoon, National Research Council holds a public discussion on its report, Understanding Climate's Influence on Human Evolution. It's taking place at the Smithsonian Museum of Natural History here in Washington. And that is this Tuesday afternoon edition of the Energy Report. Thanks for joining us. You can follow us throughout the day on Twitter and Facebook and reach our team anytime at contact@cleanskies.com. From all of us, we're glad you're with us. I'm Tyler Suiters, and you're watching Clean Skies News.